live, and I am super excited. Before I bring on my incredible guest on this 100th podcast anniversary, I want to bring a word from our sponsor. So, unlock your true full potential with Live to Thrive coaching. Are you ready to transform your life one step at a time? At Live to Thrive, I believe in the power of small, constant improvements. My unique framework focuses on becoming 1% better in mind, body, and soul every day. What do I offer? I offer the mind. Allow you to develop a growth mindset, enhance your mental clarity, and conquer challenges with absolute confidence. And body, what you do is you get workouts sent to your email or your phone, 3 published ebooks, and allows you to live a healthy lifestyle to boost your energy levels and achieve your fitness goals. And lastly, soul, which I call purpose. So many people struggle with life without discovering their true purpose. So cultivate an inner peace and live a fulfilling, balanced life. As a dedicated life coach, I will guide you on your journey to personal excellence and helping you overcome obstacles and reaching new heights. Together, we'll create a customized, tailored plan to conquer your unique aspirations. So join Live to Thrive today and start living your best purposeful life. My guy, I'm pumped about this. Look at you, man. You
What's
know,
happening?
it is. Why, you guys, I got to bring on this guy. So he's got so many awesome things about him. Not only is he
Wow.
a confidant, but a friend, a former coach, a parent of mine that I got to teach his sons. Full circle, you're doing such great things. Some of his bio, you guys, is he's a husband of 34 years, which we're going to really talk about. He's a father of 2 sons, Douglas and Miles. Shout out to those 2 tonight.
Yeah.
He's an ordained minister. He's a gifted teacher of the Word of God. He's also served in the military, you guys. He's a veteran in the Army. And he comes from an interesting background because he was in logistics as a manager of 17 years, and now he's kind of paved the way in Illinois as a minister of his church. And I'm super excited to have him on today, Mr. Turner, Douglas Turner. How are
Yo,
you, brother?
yo, Hicks. Can we go back a few years? What up,
Let's do
Hicks?
it. Oh
Man,
man,
I am so excited, man, to be a part of your awesome podcast and all the wonderful things you continue to do. It's been what, about 24 years we've known each other?
yeah.
20,
Has it been that long?
let me think, man. Miles is, well, maybe it's been at least 20. Miles is 26,
That's just insane.
which means it's been about 20 years, man. I know.
I
It's
feel we
amazing.
still. Hey, I still feel we still look good though, man. You
Yeah,
know.
man, it's a little, still a little tight. Maybe this shirt is a little tighter than it needs to be, but
Oh my goodness. It's so good to
yes,
see
sir.
you.
You too,
It's so good
man.
to I'll never forget this moment, and I want to kind of tell everybody. Um I call him Turner, he calls me
Yeah,
Hicks, you guys. We've just had that relationship
yeah.
for, like he said, 20 years. And do you remember this story? Do you remember we were
Uh-oh.
at the movie theaters? We were at the movie theater in Mequon, and we walked in, and I was dating a girl at the time. I walked in,
Yeah,
and you were there, and you guys were leaving.
yeah,
And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what are you guys doing here?" Like, you couldn't watch the movie or whatever it was, and then you gave us your tickets. Do you remember what
yeah.
movie that was?
I don't, oh, man.
I think it was a Marvel. Was it Batman? Maybe.
It was some Marvel movie, but I don't remember the movie. I'm old enough to forget stuff like that now.
We forget more now than we. Yeah, I get it. I get it,
Yeah,
man.
man, I forget more than my kids will ever know.
I know.
Father used to say that. I thought
I
that was
know. I know.
hilarious.
You're bringing it back to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh.
do remember that, man, and I thought also, weren't they meal tickets? Weren't you all able to eat something too? I don't remember.
You're probably right. Yeah, yeah. I
I
was
don't
just like,
remember.
well, the timing was just impeccable, and
Right.
I still remember that story, man. And you guys, a little history about. So I kind of told everybody I've taught both of his sons who are remarkable kids, and I mean they're no
Wow.
longer kids, but I still call them kids. I know Miles and Doug would be like, no, we're not kids, Mr. Hicks. Um, but they were our kids, right? And we
Yeah,
got to see
absolutely.
them unfold and blossom.
Yeah.
And You have always been an interesting person that I like to call that was always in my circle. And,
Mm,
I, in the time frame of, everybody's like, oh gosh, it's the 100th episode on your podcast. You should,
yeah.
bring in a guest or talk about all the cool episodes that you did. And the one person that kept coming back in my mind was you, man. And
Oh, wow, man.
and
That's
and
so
but
humbling.
like for real, like your family, I'll never forget. Even when your wife would come
Yeah,
to parent teacher conferences, when you guys would always come together.
yeah.
You're such a strong family presence. And man,
Wow.
you've always, I mean, through tough times,
Yeah,
good times, ugly times, and different times, but you all stuck together. And now
man.
you're leading a congregation, man, and it's such a
Oh, man.
beautiful thing to see, man.
Yeah, God is amazing, man. And if I may, I know we did some discussion before we were going to get on the podcast over some weeks, and I think one of your comments was you can be as transparent as you are led to be, and you just cracked some of the shell of, I believe, why I want to have such a strong family unit. I don't know if you even know this about me.
Let's hear
So
it.
at the age of 34, I was living 32, 34. I was living in Milwaukee at the time. And I don't know for sure if the boys were even at DLH yet.
Okay.
At the age of 32, Brother Hicks, I got a call from my mom. Now I wasn't always living right. I wasn't always a church boy, right? so so my mother calls me one day and she says, "Baby," you know how mothers call, and when they start with baby, they don't call your name. They just, "Baby, baby, there's some people looking for you." I was like, "What? What, ma?" Then I started asking, "Are you okay? Is anybody after you?" She said, "No, it's nothing like that." She said, and this may get a little deep right here. She said, um, "No, that you have some siblings of your father looking for you." Now, I'd forgotten that the father that raised me wasn't my natural dad.
Mm,
That's how good the upbringing had been. That this surrogate, if you will, this stepdad in my life took the place of my natural dad. And I never had a struggle about who my dad was. First of all, I didn't know my natural dad. I didn't know him. And so my mother was calling to tell me, "Your father, my real dad, my natural father, had other children that were seeking me out." Hicks, in one day,
yeah.
I became the oldest son of 12 siblings.
And
At the age of 32, I had no idea that I
wow.
had 11 siblings.
That
And so, yeah,
so
and
so
so, yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
talk me through your mindset through that,
Yeah, man. Yeah,
like
man.
what was going through that, like what were you thinking? Because I remember, I'll never forget this. And we shared a lot of stories, and
Yes, sir.
anytime I have a
Absolutely.
biblical question, I always call Turner about some things, and he gives me some really great insight on some things. So I remember my dad distinctively, because I didn't have a father growing up either. I
Yeah,
had a stepdad, but not a quality stepdad like you.
yeah.
And but I remember my dad showing up at a baseball game. I was pitching my senior year.
Wow.
And I barely seen him. He would always run away from paying alimony, child support. He'd be getting a different job, and all of a sudden now he's hanging out with my mom. It's just a weird dynamic.
Yeah.
And I remember after the game, he sat me down. He's like, in his German voice, "Michael, I want you to change your name." My name?
Oh,
Yeah, he wanted me to be a Hill J versus a Hicks. I still really don't know the
wow.
dynamics of what. I
Of
think my
what that
mom was
meant.
married like multiple times, and she just ended
Okay.
up inheriting this name.
Yeah.
And however, and I was like, no, not gonna happen.
Right. Right.
So, and I know my mindset, what was going on. My mindset was at an age of 18. Actually, I
Yeah.
think I was 19 at that time. My mindset was like, you'd never been around. So tell me,
Right.
walk us through how you were very lucky to have such a strong stepfather though to
I
implement, you
so
know?
I was, and I mean, there's so many layers to what I could share, and maybe you have me back, and we just do like a whole series on fatherhood and
Yeah.
being a son of a father you didn't know, and all of that. So let me give you a little bit more background, if I could. At the age of, well, let me say this: I remember all my life going to what I will call a mutual home in Indiana. Now, I'm naturally born in East Chicago, Indiana, and we would go back to Indiana to visit um, a neighborhood family that we knew. And while we were at this home, Brother Hicks, I'm playing with my cousins, my sister and brother that I grew up with, and I would be called into the house away from the playing. Now, I'm a kid. I want to play. My
Yeah, yeah.
cousins and I want to play. But I distinctively remember being called into the house, and I would be prepared for a, now I understand it as a scheduled meeting, but I thought was a happenstance kind of thing, that there
Mm,
was somebody there to see me. And so my parents, my stepdad, my mom, my aunt and uncle were usually there. And then this neighborhood family was there, and they would call me into the kitchen, and they would say, "Douglas, there's somebody here to see you." And whoever this person was could not come in the house. I would have to go out the back porch and into the backyard to have a conversation with this person. Now, I share that story because that happened almost every time I can recall today when I went back to Indiana to see family. Well, at the age of 32, when I got the call from my mom, things began to add up for me.
mm.
So at the age of 12, I was taken out of school one day, held back from school by I'll just make this delineation. My stepdad, who I call daddy all the time, and my mom took me to 26 in California in Chicago. Everybody who's from Chicago and Illinois knows what that corner is. That's the county jail. and
Wow.
and
Okay.
the courthouse, right? So we walk into the county jail, the courthouse, and I walk into one of the corridors and I walk into this very well dressed, distinguished man, and he says, "The man you known as your father is not." That's how I found out that my stepdad was not my father at the age
At
of
13.
12.
Oh, at
At
12.
12, 12, 13, yeah.
Wow.
And I know I consciously blocked that. I know I
Yes.
did because I
Yes.
had, it was like at 32, I got flooded. Like, oh my God, I do have two dads, right? I have a natural father and a stepdad. And so I navigated it by a mental block. At 32 and forward, I tried to balance it by not being an absent dad to my boys.
You know what's interesting? Not to get too sentimental here or tear jerking, so to speak.
Mm,
And I fought, obviously, I went through a divorce,
yes, sir.
and I fought tooth and nail and spent lots of money just to get 50-50.
With your
And
daughter. Yes, sir.
yeah, with my daughter. And
Who's
it was
beautiful, by
hard.
the way. She is, I still know how to shoot. Oh, wait. Did the man of God say that? I'm sorry. If you need me, brother. No. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. I love it. I love it. And um, and it's interesting because even I remember I said to myself, and I made a vow to myself, and and I knew what it felt like not to have a father growing up.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I know statistically too, on top of that, if a
Yeah.
little girl doesn't have a father in their life as well, how detrimental that can be to
Yes,
so
sir.
many aspects of their lives.
Yes, sir.
I did everything I could, and I knew I would, and
Yeah.
it's and our relationship is beautiful. But I'm just telling you, I full circle is what I'm about to say is I get why
Yeah.
fathers are just like, because I'm going to tell
Mm.
you, black, white, whatever creed,
Yeah.
ethnicity you are, the court systems I think defy dads. And I know
Wow.
biblically, I know divorce is really something that we should not do unless there's cheating and all of
Yeah.
these other things that
Sure.
take place. However, I get though why dads are like, this is just too much. But I can
Right.
honestly say though, because of your exact reason, is I didn't have one,
Right.
and I want to be now the best dad. And
Yeah.
your family is a beautiful ensemble of
Wow.
what you bring out to the world, and it's exactly what, and that's why I wanted to bring you on the podcast, is because you preach, you teach, but you also live though, Turner, right?
Oh, absolutely, man.
You not only, I always like to say the words that we say is who we become,
Yeah.
but then you act on it too, right?
Right.
When you're
Right.
preaching
Right.
on Sundays, and I know you, and I want to kind of go in a little bit, man.
Sure.
So you transitioned into
Hmm.
full ministry. So you spent 17 years as a logistic manager,
Yeah.
and now you transition into full-time ministry. What has
Yeah.
been the biggest challenge and biggest reward in making that shift?
Well, the first admission I need to make is that I ran from coming home to ministry for like 20 years. The whole time I knew you in Milwaukee at DLH, God had been telling me, "You're going home to pastor." I'm like, I do not want to go back to Illinois. Are you, Lord? I can't stand the traffic. It's too
You're in the
expensive. I get,
suburbs, though, man. It is not that bad in the
man,
suburbs, is it?
it's no, it's not. Well, it all depends on which suburb.
Okay, of
But it's not. But I was just throwing every excuse that okay,
course.
I don't want to go back. The transition is still happening. So and it's a challenging one because it is really trusting. Okay, God,
Oh, yes.
if we can just be real, I, there's 10 people in the at church, right? They're faithful. I love them. How are we gonna make it? We got a house and we have cars and I need insurance and we got to eat, Lord. Uh, you know, so you have those types of thoughts, but I can tell you, man, the word is true. He's never seen the righteous forsaken or his seed begging bread. Never. And so I had to learn how to really stand on that. Okay, God, how do I really stand on
Mhm,
that? And you know
mhm.
how you learn? He puts you in a situation that makes you learn it. Gonna make you he's gonna make us figure out how to be great dads by having some kind of convoluted father figure,
Mhm, mhm,
right? He's gonna force you into that. And he forces you because he knows you can handle it. He knows you can handle it. We don't think we can handle it.
yeah,
This is too
yeah.
hard for me. I don't want to do this. You get mad and the few words that you shouldn't utter come back into your mind and you want to spew them, right? You want to
Understood.
be a certain way. Oh man. But he knows who we are and he's made us who we are and he wants us to develop into what he's called us to be. And so he's going to challenge us. And how does he do that? He sends the very thing in to our life that we don't want to deal with. In my case, it was you going home to minister. You going back to Illinois. He told me exactly how it would happen and then it started to happen. It took 20 years. and it happened the exact way he told me what happened 20 years previous. And the only person I'd ever told was my wife.
That's amazing.
Bishop Darrell called me into his office, and this is what God told me 20 years previous, that he's going to call you into his office or talk to you, and he won't know why he's asking you, but he's going to ask you to go home and start a church. And I'm like, God, this has to be you because there's no way I want to do that.
Gosh,
Hicks, that's
I,
exactly what happened.
I know.
That's
I mean,
exactly what happened.
I mean, not to get too bad. I mean, people know my story, but the
Yes,
whole
sir.
situation that I had with the drowning on the boat and stuff like
So
that. For those of you that,
I was
yeah, well,
going to
for
mention that, right? Yep. Go
yeah,
ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. No,
Yep.
no, I was going to say, and for those of you that want to check that episode out, that is on. I don't know which one, but you can hear that whole story. I think it's
Mm.
relatively one of the first few. Um, I had to have a lot of faith, my friend, in that,
Oh man, I know you
and
did, man.
because I contemplated even taking my own life, right?
My God.
Um, and but the outpour of love and support and
Yeah.
my faith in Christ and
Yes, sir.
yeah, faith is one of the most beautiful things. I always like to tell even my clients that I'm working with is either you live in faith or you
Mm.
live in fear.
Fear. Absolutely.
And fear is the worldly thing that they project on you, right? All this
Right.
other this negativity, this political circus, whatever you want to call it.
Yes, sir.
And it's just I love that you really echoed faith. Let me ask you this question because I think there's so many principles that you can take biblically from the Bible and implement it into, let's just take the church out of the situation for a second and just implement it into, excuse me, a business, a
Mm.
school,
Sure.
um, your values, whatever it might
Hmm.
be. How have you, or what highlights do you think that you could bring from the Bible itself that you would be like, hey, this would work really well as a protocol for a business? Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. There's, if I remember right now, you have to forgive me. I'm a pastor, but I don't have the Bible memorized. But there's a passage of scripture, if I'm not mistaken, in the book of Leviticus, and it, in my estimation, gives a 5-year business plan.
Mm.
And I'll paraphrase it. I'll paraphrase it the
Yeah,
way I remember it. It
yeah.
says, in the first 3 years, when you enter the land that I'm giving you, the first 3 years, you are to plant every type of tree, and you cultivate those trees for the first 3 years. You don't eat any of its fruit. In other words, you're planting your work. You're cultivating what you've planted and you work it. What you receive from it, you put right back into the land or into the tilling of this ground around the tree. You want to make this tree grow. Then it says in the fourth year, you'll begin to see fruit from those trees, but they're not good for you to eat from yet.
Mm,
They have to still be mature to a level that they can sustain you. You don't want a half baked cake. You don't like an unripened apple. An unripened orange tastes horrible, right?
I love it.
Then it says, Brother Hicks, in the fifth year, you may eat freely from all the fruit of all the trees you've planted because they've reached maturity. That's a 5-year business plan.
Hmm. I love it.
That's
That's
what it is.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so don't, and this may even be for you, don't rush the process. At about 5 years, you should see some fruit. You may see it before and you're
Mm.
anxious in that third year. Oh man, I need to see more and I want to take a bite. Can I use a little bit of this profit?
Yeah,
you know, I'm meeting my needs, but I want to go splurge. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. The fourth year is looking even better. Fruit's almost there, but don't cut into it. Leave it on the vine. That fifth year,
yeah.
watch out.
That's so well said because I'm about 2 years in. and I'm starting
Mm.
to see things like you said.
Yeah.
Um, Patience is one of my.
Ooh, woo.
Yeah, I remember even working my way up in coaching, Turner.
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
I remember uh, getting to the high school level and being just a little freshman coach and a JV coach, and I was like, man, I can do what the varsity coaches do. And everybody would always say, just Hicks, it'll come. Just be patient, be patient.
Yeah,
That's one of my biggest struggles is the patience because it's like I kind of have the mentality sometimes in my business
yeah.
framework is I'm building the plane, Turner, as it's flying.
Right, right. We need to get there now. Oh, I forgot the wing. Hold on. Hold
Yes.
on. Yeah, man. Um, Tribulation worketh patience. Patience, experience, and experience hope.
Oh, that
There,
was good.
patience is the mantra that we have to have. Over and over again, the Bible tells us to be long suffering, be patient. Um, it doesn't mean not to act on anything that you feel like you need to. It just means keep diligent at the work you're doing and watch the work work for you. And you can't rush the process.
I know. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, I know it is.
Because
I know it is.
and being in the I'm also a content creator, so I got to keep
Yes, sir.
stuff up all the time. I've got so many people. I have more coaches sometimes in my DMs on telling me how much they can 10x my business overnight. Basically the 90-day
Overnight. Yeah,
programs.
right,
Yeah,
right.
the
Yeah,
90-day programs.
yeah.
Um, hey, I want to ask you.
Uh-huh.
In your bio, you talk about you're behind the founding of the Christian Faith Fellowship community.
Yeah,
And what the one of the biggest missions. So how? Or let me backtrack. So it says
sure.
disciple a global community, one family at a time.
Yes, sir.
How do you implement that mission on both locally and globally, and even maybe even starting with your family?
Yeah. So it absolutely started with my family. And let me you were instrumental in helping my boys understand a global community.
What do you mean?
So, you know, I guess we're going to get a little bit deep and peel back some onion a little bit.
I love it.
But our ethnicities are different. I don't know if you noticed or not. But
No, you're still my brother,
absolutely. But one of us is a little less brown than the other, but you're still
right?
my brother, right?
Yeah, yep.
And unfortunately, there's still this divide in society as it relates to skin color, melanin content, right? Well, I didn't want that kind of sentiment in my family, in my life. Neither did my wife.
Hmm.
My sons wouldn't have known unless we taught them, right? And so when we matriculated to DLH and you were one of the teachers, and I believe it was Douglas first who gravitated to you or you gravitated to him. Um, that was wonderful, and it helped foster what it was my wife and I were trying to do in our household. Douglas also had another teacher in oh wow, I forget the elementary school he went to. We lived off of man, I'm getting old, dude. I forget where we lived.
Careful.
Oh my god, I forget the first home. Oh, that's terrible.
That's okay, man.
Anyway, man, there was a teacher there by the name of Mr. Manchesky. Do you remember? I
Oh
don't think
yeah, yes.
so. Was Mr. Manchesky at DLH?
Yeah, he was there for a little bit, and then because I was there for a while, then he left.
Yeah. Okay, so Mr. Manchesky was huge in Douglas's life.
Wow.
And Mr. Manchesky didn't look like his dad,
No,
like Douglas's dad.
right?
And then there was you who began to cultivate the athletic side of
Hmm.
both Douglas and Miles, because Miles came to DLH because Douglas was in
Yeah, yeah.
DLH. And the opportunity was there for us to link because, okay, this guy's going to be teaching my sons. I need to know who these people are. So that was my position.
Yeah,
Who are
absolutely.
these people teaching my sons?
Yeah.
And then when I had the opportunity to reach out even the more to you in the instance that you brought up, um, um, that very unfortunate incident, the Lord told my wife and I remember it like it was yesterday. The Lord told us, "You go befriend him.
Hmm.
Go befriend him." And the Lord said, "You have no idea what he's trying to deal with and manage after this situation.
Yeah.
Go befriend him." And that's why I started like stalking you because the Lord told me to
Yeah.
befriend you.
Well.
Now, there's scripture with that, right? I don't want to make this a this isn't a message night tonight,
Right.
but
Right.
the Bible says a brother is birthed out of adversity.
You're right.
You had a huge adversity. You
Mm,
needed somebody
I
to
did.
brother up to you, man. You needed
Yep.
somebody. And even though you got a lot of love, I just believe I filled a void that nobody else did or would have. I just believe that. Now that could be totally wrong. You can burst my bubble after we're off the line, but I believe that I did that. And so back to your question, discipling a global community one family at a time. It started with my family. That okay, I
Mm,
don't care what they look like. We're
mm.
all children of God. I don't care what they look like. Long blonde hair, short black hair,
Right.
kinky beard, long beard. All children of God. Now you judge a person on the content of their character. That's how you get to know them.
I
And
gotta tell
so,
you. Go ahead.
yep. Oh, I just wanted to finish, and then with the
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
church,
Yeah. Yeah.
the Lord, some of the first families that came to the church looked nothing like us.
Wow.
He did that from the beginning. Even though we had written the mission and that's what we wanted to see, we wanted to see what the Bible says. Like the Bible says in Revelation, there was a great sea of nations that were before the throne. There was all sorts of nations before the throne. That means people, kindred. And he was telling us this is how the congregation should look that you all are going to shepherd over. Hicks, that's exactly what started happening. We no marketing, no, it just started happening. It blows our mind to this day. This is amazing. And so the mission that he gave us to road is exactly what he's bringing into the church house for us.
That's good. I love
Yeah.
that. Hey, do you remember Mother McCoy from DLH? Do you remember she was the secretary for some time?
Yeah.
So I will tell you this. You're gonna find this cool, unique, beautiful, whatever word you want to use. So my daughter, since the age of 3, has been doing Bible study with Mother McCoy. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. She has been. I'm telling you, because I go through. There's stuff that I still go through
Sure.
to this day, but she has been, man, such a sounding board biblically,
Wow.
it's just so much love that she shares. But yeah, she meets with. Well, we just changed the schedule because guess what? I decided to take up flag football and coach this year. Yeah,
Oh no, you didn't.
I did. I did. I did. I remember when we did that. That was Miles was our
Ooh,
quarterback. You remember that?
man, Hicks, that game, that championship game, I'm too old to have it haunt me, but it still haunts me, man. We were one play away from winning that game, and it was a defensive play. You remember it?
Refresh my memory.
Who was our cornerback? He was very athletic. He wore his shoes that day on the wrong feet.
Yes. You would always say
Was
something
it?
to him too. Oh my gosh, but man, he was fast. He was
He
so
was
fast.
he was he
He
was
could
one of the
wear his shoes.
quickest. Oh
Yeah,
my
he could
God.
wear his shoes it didn't matter.
On
He
the
was still
wrong
outrunning.
feet and still outrun everybody. What was his name, man?
Oh, it'll come to me.
Yeah, it
It'll come
will.
to me.
So that play, we called it perfect. That school would always do a delay play, and we got beat every time they ran that play. De, Demontre, Deon, Demontre, Deon,
Yeah.
something.
Yep.
And so he was the corner, and
Demonte.
I was
Demonte.
Demonte. I think it's
Demonte.
Demonte. I think it
Demonte.
is.
Yeah, Demonte.
I think it is.
Yeah.
And the play was everybody just hold your man, Demonte or Demontre, whatever it was. Stay home. Don't move. They're going to come back to your side and run it. Don't move. They're going to look like they're going left, but they're going to come back right. And he stayed there just long enough for him to stand it. He as soon as he left his spot, that's exactly where the play went back. They got that first down, and we missed our chance to win that championship. But I remember that like it was yesterday, man.
Yeah, those
We
were some
had
good
that
times.
game,
We
man.
did.
Those were
We
some
did.
great times, man. They were
Yeah,
some great times.
those were really like I remember it was you. It was Rice was in the mix.
Yeah,
Who's the other Chicago guy? What
yeah.
Nash? No.
It was Frank.
Frank.
Yeah,
Was
Frank.
yeah. Yeah, that was
Frank
a good
Taylor.
Taylor, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That was a really good group. That was a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
It
Um
was, man. It was a ton of fun. I still remember that stuff. It was so much fun. We put basketball too. You
yeah.
and I and Frank every once in a while. Now I
Oh,
wouldn't
I remember. Do you remember when
have.
Frank got into it was a little sixth grader or seventh grader. He had like a bad
Oh,
attitude, man.
yeah, man.
Man, you can't do that
Yeah.
stuff nowadays. But
No,
Frank took care of him.
sure did. Yeah, no, we
oh,
can't do that now, brother.
oh man! But
Uh-uh.
I tell you, yeah, those were. And I tell you to this day, Turner DLH was by far one of the best families I
Wow.
have ever been part of.
Wow.
Like I'll never forget when my mom had passed,
Yeah.
and I didn't even know this. I think Mrs. Horton and God rest her soul,
Yes.
and Mrs. Washington, the whole crew, they got a van and they drove
Wow. And they drove up.
everybody down to Sheboygan
Oh
to
my.
to sit there and be part of that. And
Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah, I'll never, as long as I live, forget those moments like Nixon,
Yeah, man.
Campbell,
Campbell.
Oliver. Oh my
Campbell
gosh,
wasn't
yeah.
my favorite, but I loved Campbell. He wasn't my
Yeah,
favorite, but you know.
no, you know what though? But once you got to know him, and he would
Yeah.
like once I left DLH and I continued to talk with him because I came back for a speaking engagement one of the time, and
Okay.
he was cool, man. They're just
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah.
were all cool. Just, he just
I
yeah,
got you. Yeah, I got you. Hey, I want to talk, man. You got a really cool thing here. 34 years of marriage, man.
oh man, yes, sir. We
Um,
just celebrated that last Sunday.
yeah,
22nd was 34 years.
commendable, beautiful.
Man.
In a day and age where
Mm,
like that's so rare.
wow.
Break it down, man. Because like, give us, tell me. Because I mean, I know a little bit, but I don't know how much you want to
Yeah.
share. Um, I know there were some hard times.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, what got you through those tough times? So maybe someone's that's dropping on the podcast today, and man, they're
Yeah.
struggling in their marriage, and man, it's like at the rock bottom. Like
Yeah.
you were there too, man. Like
Yeah, I was.
what did you do? Talk to us on that.
Can I I got to the end of myself.
What do you mean?
I got to the end of me. What I mean is I knew everything I tried to make it work didn't help it to work.
Mm,
And she got to the same place. But we also grew in our adversity to a place that we had to communicate. And you know what we did, Brother Hicks? We actually asked each other, did you really mean your vows? Did you really mean what you recited before the preacher and all those witnesses and God? Did you really mean that? Because if you really meant that, no matter what I did, we need to work this out. And let me tell you, that's some of the hardest conversation I've ever had as a man in my life
Do you
because
think?
I had to
Yeah.
come to the yeah, I had to come to the end of me and the realization of me, and so did she.
When you say the end of you, explain what you mean.
Uh own up to who I had to own up to who I really was and what I was acting like.
Mm, mm,
And that's a vulnerable stripping place because you can't put it on anybody else because you want to. It's your fault that I did this. It's your fault that I went out. It's your
mm.
fault that she called. It's your fault that you went. It's your fault. It's your fault. No, no, no. It's not a one-way street. That was the single most difficult thing that I believe I had ever done to that point in my life as a man. And I want you to hear that the way I mean it because um, men, we have this exterior, man. We have this, we go to the gym and
It's ego.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Want to look
Yeah.
firm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not no shot because we both go to the gym, but you
Yeah.
you
Of
know what I'm
course.
saying,
Yeah.
just and we got this exterior in front of all these other men, and then we want the women to look at us, and we want them to see a strong, solid, muscular man. When actually we're little boys trying to figure out
Mhm.
who our daddies were.
Wow.
Where's my mommy? I
Wow.
need my mommy. I was a mama's boy. I
Yeah. Me
was a
too.
mama's boy.
Me
I
too.
need my mommy. Where my mommy? Crying all the time.
Yeah.
And so when it came to all right, no, you have a whole lot of skin in this game. Don't, at least 50% of the reason that this is falling apart is because of your foolishness, Doug Turner. So when you're going to own up to yourself, when you're going to come to the end of yourself and stop putting all this undue pressure and lies on your spouse because she's not in this, she didn't do all this on her own. You've done a lot of the damage too. And so that was right around the same time that I was coming into knowing who the Lord was. I wasn't previously saved. I didn't grow up in church. I wasn't a church boy. My parents didn't go to church. They talked about church. I remember going 2 or 3 times maybe as a family. I do remember as a kid in Chicago, I used to walk to a church by myself. And I don't even know why I got the unction to ever do that. Well, I do now. I believe I do now. I shouldn't say I don't know why. I do now. But I didn't know then. And my mother would be floored. You want to do what? And she would dress me and let me go. Nobody
Wow.
else went with me. I would walk. There was a Catholic church on one corner and a Lutheran church on the other, and I would alternate.
Wow.
Now, there was a period where I stopped going totally, but as a kid, I want to say 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, I would just
Wow.
go by myself.
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah. That's cool.
um, the communication, man, it was communication. First of all, I had to strip away me and say, okay, I'm sorry. This is what I did. The Lord actually told me to tell her everything, Hicks. Now, I'm not going to tell everything on this podcast, but the Lord told me to tell my wife everything I had done. What?
Yeah. Wow.
What?
Yeah.
And he wouldn't let me out of it. That's why when people tell me they hear from the Lord, do you really? Because when I heard from him, I couldn't get out of what he told me to do.
It's interesting. There was a sermon that by our pastor, and he said, he goes, ask the Lord what you
Yeah,
need, and ask
yeah.
him. He's like, be careful. You may ask, and you may not want that,
You may
and
not
now
want
it's
it.
there,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a time where he just tells you what he needs you to do, and
Yep.
there's no way you can get out of it.
Right.
And so I hope I'm answering your question, but I have to include my walk to Christ because that's what kept our marriage. That was instrumental. It was two things. Well, let me slow it down. It's three things. We asked each other the question: did you believe what you recited
Okay.
when we stood before those witnesses? Sickness and health, richer or for poorer. Did you believe that? And we crying, we looking at each other and say, yes. Okay. If you believe that, second question is, do you still love me?
Mm,
Despite all this garbage, do you still love me? Well, yes, I do. We do. We agree. We do. Okay. Do you still want to be married? Okay. Yes. 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 Okay. Then we got to do two things from here: communicate and find God.
amen. Let me
And we
ask you
began.
this.
Yep.
Go ahead. No, go
No, we
finish.
began we began to communicate at a raw level. I mean, like she told me she didn't, we didn't share every little detail, but the stuff we shared was enough to split most marriages up.
Yeah.
I'll just be real with you.
Yeah, for sure.
I know most marriages couldn't handle what I know what she and I talked about. And now we used to minister,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
Yeah. So and then it was, okay, let's find a church. We found a church. And that's how, you know, history has been made.
Let me ask you this question. I think I know this because I failed miserably, and I'll be the first to tell you that I failed miserably in relationships. You know, womanizer, um,
Mm,
all these things, right?
yes, sir.
I talked about this on a podcast, so I don't want to repeat it. However, I think truly relationships fail because men don't know how to lead.
Ooh, you don't know how profound that is.
Right, but for real, like if
Yeah,
you're
man.
and it's strictly says in the Bible, men or women are to follow their men. Well, if the
Yeah,
man's not leading correctly or communicating like you use the example,
yeah.
or are just coming home and first thing he does is put his feet on the table and put on TV. I mean, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like truly, it starts with men, and it starts
yeah,
with men. Honestly, I think being vulnerable. You talked about that. You said peeling back and really feeling who they are. I
yeah.
think that is absolutely. I can honestly say, Turner, I'm finally at a point in my life that I know I failed the
Mm,
relation. All these other relationships,
mm,
I'll own. And when I
yeah,
when I go in front of my Creator, God knows I
yeah,
messed up. I've repented for that. But
yeah.
I got I feel like a newfound opportunity now
Yes, sir.
where
Yes,
I'm
sir.
leading in prayer, right?
Yeah.
We do family prayers.
Amen.
We talk about goals. We talk about faith. We talk about bringing our families to church.
Yeah.
How vital that is. And for those of you that are listening, you're just hearing this now. Prayer is one of the most silent, powerful tools I
Absolutely.
think we can have. I will
Absolutely.
literally, Turner, pray with my girlfriend Amber. I mean, I don't see her often all the time, but when I
Hmm.
do, I make sure that we do that. And
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful, profound thing.
Yes, sir.
Um, and kind of echo on that. Talk a little bit about that, and what are your thoughts on what I just said?
So one of the most intimate things you can do with anyone is to pray with them. Because in prayer, you usually, if the prayer isn't something that is staged, which it shouldn't be, it's usually an opening of your emotions.
Yeah.
Lord, it's me again. I give you glory and honor. I'm nothing without you. You are opening yourself up, man. And then you're beginning to ask potentially about things you need. If you're praying with someone, they're hearing all your vulnerabilities.
Yes.
You're
And it,
because usually hold hands or something,
for
right? Or
sure.
even if
For
you're in the
sure.
same room. Okay, let's pray. Well, why do you pray? Because you need help.
Mm,
You want intervention from God.
mhm.
And he says, put me in remembrance of my word and tell me all about it. Now I'm paraphrasing, but he's saying,
Right.
I want to hear. And the only way he can hear is if you tell him. It's one of the most intimate and vulnerable places you'll ever be with another person listening to you pray to your Lord.
And it's so interesting is I in the 51 years that I've been on this planet, I've never done that.
Wow. Never done. You never prayed
Prayed
with
prayed
anyone?
with my significant other.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Until now.
Yeah.
And now I'm the
Wow.
happiest I've ever been. It's because it's centered around Christ. I mean, one of my intuitions and my I am statements that I always say I every day when I wake up before I put my feet down on the floor, I always say
Yeah.
I walk in the likeness of my creator. I
Oh
strive for
man.
that. I
Yes,
strive for
sir.
that. No, I fail miserably. I fail miserably, but there's always
Right.
a good goal to
There's
have, right?
always
Yeah,
absolutely, man. Yeah.
man.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. That's amazing. There's something to um praying separately and then coming together and praying.
Oh,
Yeah.
going on that a little bit.
Sure. So again, it's let me just put it in a human way, I guess, or a fleshly way. Y- You can tell the Lord much more in solitude about yourself than you can with a partner listening.
I see what you're saying.
And so when you are praying solely to the Lord, that prayer is probably going to sound a little different than it is when you're praying with a mate. I would
Unless,
challenge you, yeah, I would
yeah,
challenge you to make that prayer just as candid as it is
there it is.
in solitude
Yeah,
than when you do it with your spouse to be significant other, whatever.
yeah,
Um, it's an amazing relationship. I don't know how much time we have. I think we're running out.
yeah. About eight
But
more minutes. Yeah, yeah,
okay, I'll tell this. I'll share this little story. I think you shared in my bio. I'm an ex-military man too. I spent 8 years in the army, and um, I was quite literally. They train us how to kill people.
yeah.
Quite literally, they train us how to survive in war. And when I got married, I was still Staff
Mm,
Sergeant Turner in the military.
wow.
And so there was that whole nother dynamic of I was already a fool and now I'm trained in hyper shape, running 3 miles in 17 minutes, just craziness. And um, I'm on I'm on 1,000 all the time, right? And one of the first things the Lord told me, Brother Hicks, when I started praying, when I was about to lose my marriage and I had to come to myself, all that sergeant stuff means nothing. You want your wife, you better peel yourself back. And so
Mm,
the Lord told me, man, He talks to you right where you are. He said, you need to be stripped from masculinity. That's what I heard in prayer. I was like, wait a minute, stripped from masculinity. He said, he said this to me. Now I'm not saying that he said this to anyone else, but he said anything that ends, I remember it like it was yesterday, bro. Anything that ends in a ity can be worshiped
wow.
because it's an action. Anything that ends in ity, masculinity, femininity, any other ity, it can be worshiped.
Mm,
He said what normally happens in a man's maturation is that men teach you how to worship your masculinity. Keep that woman under subjection. You
mm.
can never cry.
Oh,
You're a provider.
yeah,
You better go bring home that money.
yeah,
Don't
yeah.
let a woman tell you what to do with your money.
Wow.
Okay, wait a minute. Oh, he had to strip me of all that. He just started stripping. Then he
Mm,
said, then he said to me, "It's your wife. What I tell you to do in your house is what I tell you to do in your house. You won't have a marriage like your parents. You won't have a marriage like your aunt and uncle. So what if he takes out the garbage? That may not be what I want you to do in your house for your marriage, Doug
mm,
Turner." And so he molded me into what he wanted me to be. So again, in short, he began to strip me. He showed me me. He showed me where I was failing the
yeah.
relationship
Yeah.
because of my masculinity.
Yep. I feel you because that
Yeah, man.
was it took a nasty breakup that I cheated on
Mm,
with a woman that was married that I didn't know for me
mm,
to really realize that,
yeah.
man, I got some issues. So I
Yeah.
got some issues. So I hired a life coach. I hired a therapist. I did some
Wow.
time in prayer.
Yes, sir.
Um, and I couldn't tell you, it's never too late. I just want to say that it's
No, it's
never
not.
ever too late. And I hear so many times, "Oh man, I'm in my 30s. It's too late now." No, it's
Oh
never,
my
y'all.
gosh. Never too
Never
late.
ever too late. Some of the most successful people were millionaires when they're in their 60s.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And millionaires
Yeah,
isn't is today should is not even that big of a deal. It's not that
that's right. That's not a
monumental.
ton of money, right? You're
Yeah,
right.
especially in
Right.
today's age.
I could use a million, but you're right. It's
Well, of
not.
course, we all could. But I'm going to tell you this, though. I'll give you a million today, but you'll take it. But if I said, "Hey, Turner, I'll give you a million today, but you cannot wake up tomorrow," would you take it?
Ooh, no, absolutely not.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
we value our life, our health a lot
yeah.
more because that gives our time with our loved ones,
Yes,
and
sir.
in unity. Hey, what's up in the future? Any books? You gonna write a book? Like, where are you
Oh
at, man?
man. Oh
What's the
my
future looking
gosh.
like?
Man, you just hit on something the Lord has been knocking me upside the head to do for years is write a book. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's two. One about my family and what I've learned about who I am, who my father was, who my siblings are, how I grew through that process. I shared a little bit of it tonight that,
Yeah.
you know, going through this house and meeting, as a matter of fact, the person I was meeting in the backyard was my father. I never knew it. All my life. Meeting my father, seeing my father, he's checking up on me. All my life.
You didn't
Nobody
know.
ever told me that was my dad. Never told me.
Is he still alive today?
No. And that's why my siblings were hunting me down when I was about 32 living in Milwaukee because dad was dying and he was spilling his heart.
Mhm.
They started finding siblings and they got to 7, they
Jeez.
got to 8, they got to
Wow.
9. They said, "Listen, all right, stop, dad. How many more are there?" And he said, "I know you have an older brother, his firstborn. His name is Douglas. If you find him, I want him at the funeral in the seat of honor." That's a whole nother story. It's a whole
Wow.
nother
We
story.
we
Yeah.
may have to bring you on again and
Oh
talk
man.
about that. Man,
Yeah,
I'd
so
love
that's
to.
the book I'm supposed to write right there. That's one about the family. And then there's some ministry things that I believe the Lord has given me to write about. So
I love that.
absolutely.
Um, I have started mine. But it's still then you end up buying a house and that kind of throws things off a little
Yeah,
bit.
just a tad bit.
Yeah, man. So my girlfriend's like, "Yeah, you should shoot for a 2-year outlook." I was like, "You're probably right." So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
hey, how can our listeners get a hold of you? If you want to give your socials, your LinkedIn, your church, whatever, go ahead. This is
Sure.
your time.
So, well, I appreciate it. So, first of all, I want to give big kudos to my brother from another mother, Michael Hicks, for allowing me to even be on the podcast this evening. It's a privilege and an honor to know him and to be on this podcast. Um, Christian Faith Fellowship Community Church of God in Christ in Bolingbrook, Illinois. We've been a ministry now. It'll be 7 years, October 13th. We're celebrating 7 years. And if you'd like to chime in and listen to us. You can see all of our past messages on Facebook. We do have a Facebook page, and it is Christian Faith Fellowship Community Church. You can find us also on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is CFFC space COGIC. I'll pray I have that right. CFFC space COGIC. We share space, ministry space, in Bolingbrook at 364 Commons Drive, Bolingbrook, Illinois 60440. Start every Sunday morning at 10:15 with intercessory prayer. 10:30 starts the worship service, and then I call myself a treacher, a teaching preacher, because I'm more of a teacher than I am a hollerer. So I get excited, but I'm certainly going
I've
to
snuck
teach you.
up on your sermons a few times.
Ah, okay.
I have,
Well, look
I
at
have.
that. Look at that. All
I
right.
saw you've had Miles on there a few times talking. I
Absolutely.
was like, man,
Yeah.
it's just crazy because I can still just remember him. Miles, if you listen to this podcast,
Food
this short
fights.
little pudgy kid. Now
Ah,
look at him, man. He's a beast.
man, he's a beast, Michael Hicks. He's a beast. He's trainer. I don't know if you know this.
Yeah, I
He's
do.
he's
Yeah.
a trainer now. No, okay, good, good. I pray he's keeping in touch with you.
Yeah,
So,
he is. He is.
oh, okay, wonderful.
I tell you, it's so, there's nothing better than as a teacher slash coach is getting
Yeah,
just a text,
yeah. Oh
brother Hicks,
man,
I miss you, or thank you about something that, like, there's no better feeling than that. And
yeah.
in the time frame that I've been in education, I've touched probably, man, thousands of lives
Absolutely,
that you just,
absolutely.
and you run in somewhere and, oh my gosh, Mr. Hicks, you were my favorite teacher, and
Yeah,
you
man.
barely even remember the kid, what's the name
Right.
again?
Like who are you? Yeah,
uh
absolutely,
Man, well, all
absolutely,
right, well,
man.
hey, I appreciate the love, man.
Yes,
This
sir.
will drop next week, Wednesday.
Okay,
I'll start promoting it probably Monday, Sunday, probably Sunday through Wednesday.
okay.
Promoting it with your images and stuff like that. And but let's hear it. I don't know if you listen to any of my podcasts, but here's, just follow me here. 1% better, you guys, in mind, body, and soul, and always stay flex. Get them up, Turner. Get them up. There we go.
I got a
Yes.
little.
You got to push it up. Hey, remember then the pictures? You'd be like this
Oh,
when you were a kid, because then you. Oh my goodness. Too funny.
yes,
Hey,
sir.
man. I appreciate you. Say hello to the family
Man,
for you, man. I love you.
absolutely,
I hope
absolutely.
your wife's looking magnificent, just like both of you guys
Man,
are. You guys are crushing it, man. And
she's
so
amazing.
much love to you guys.
Man, love you so much, man. We need to not be so long again
I know.
from
I
having
know.
some discussion, or even hugging your neck, man. I might sneak up on you and hug your neck or something.
I love it,
Don't
brother.
don't don't turn around and hit the brother, but
Yeah. All right, Trevor. You have
All
a good
right,
night.
man.
Take care.
Yes, sir. Love you, man.
Love you, brother.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.